Most strategy fans can rattle off the giants, but the genre's smartest ideas often came from the games that slipped through the cracks. That's where we're going today. The outliers that taught new habits, changed the way you scout, and made positioning feel like a superpower, then quietly disappeared. If you love rediscovering great design, hit like right now. Subscribe for more deep dives and tell us in the comments which forgotten RTS deserves a second life. Your pick might lead the next episode. The Tacticians, when terrain is the real boss. Ground control, world in conflict, sacrifice. Some strategy games remove the comfort blanket and dare you to win with brains, not build orders. Ground control did it by ditching base building and making elevation, sight lines, and spacing the whole game. Hills weren't scenery, they were win conditions. World in Conflict pushed the idea further by turning players into specialists. Armor, air, infantry, support. So a match becomes a coordinated heist instead of 4 solo economies. Then Sacrifice charged in with a soul-based economy, gleefully weird spells, and combat-first pacing. You didn't farm, you fought, and everybody on the field changed the math. Different vibes, same lesson, position beats production. But pure tactics were only one road, less traveled. Hybrids that shouldn't work, but do. Battlezone, Impossible Creatures, Nexus, the Jupiter Incident. If you've ever wished you could run a base from the cockpit, Battlezone grants that wish and dares you to keep up. You're driving, building, defending, and expanding in the same breath. It's frantic, it's clever, and it was years ahead of the commander mode trend. Impossible Creatures took another risk. 76 animals you can splice into custom armies, creating weird, wonderful unit kits nobody else has. You don't memorize a meta, you invent one. And for the patient tactician, Nexus, the Jupiter Incident trades swarms for capital ships and timing. It's slower by design, more naval drama than Zerg Rush, where a single broadside planned 30 seconds ago decides the next 3 minutes. Experimental, yes. But when they click, these hybrids feel like secret genres inside the genre. Some experiments were brilliant, others were simply punishing, in the best way. Systems that bite back. Original War, Kohan 2, Dark Reign. Original War treats human lives like the scarce resource they should be. There's no infinite barracks. Every loss echoes through your campaign, so scouting becomes surgery, and retreats become strategy. Kohan 2 flips the script again by caring more about regiments, frontage, and supply than about individual units. It rewards formation discipline and punishes sloppy timing. Think Tactical Doctrine the game. Dark Reign, way back in 97, pushed line of sight and elevation long before it was fashionable, making terrain not just important, but essential. Together, they prove that difficult systems can be deeply satisfying once you accept the rules. Difficulty alone didn't bury some games, though. Timelines did. Big ideas, bad timing. Rise of Nations, Empire Earth, Grey Goo. Rise of Nations should be talked about constantly. Borders matter. Deep raids bleed to attrition. National powers change mirror matches. It's Civ energy with RTS pace, and it's still a masterclass. Empire Earth aimed bigger, eras from sticks to starships, and paid the long-term price of ambition as tech and compatibility moved on. Grey Goo, more recent, modernized classic 3-faction dynamics without chasing esports speed for its own sake. None of them failed on design. The market just looked the other way. When the conversation drifts, great ideas go quiet. Other games stayed quiet because they chose unusual battlefields. Worlds off the beaten path. Submarine Titans, Warrior Kings, armies of Exigo, Submarine Titans moves the war underwater across 5 depth layers, cave networks, and cliff ambushes where cover is a direction, not a wall. It's a learning cliff, not just a curve, but once it lands, you can never unsee how sightlines should work. Warrior Kings looks like comfort food, but builds around branching moral and tech paths that meaningfully change identity, not just stats. Armies of Exigo hides a second front below your feet. Tunnels, pop-up flanks, and underground maneuver that punishes anyone who thinks in 2D. Each of these worlds bent the rules just enough to open new strategies, and that's why they linger. And then there are the cult favorites that never stopped being fun. They just stopped being loud. Cult corners and deep cuts. Z, American Conquest, Heroes of Annihilated Empires, Ancient Wars, Sparta. Z is pure attitude and pace. Capture zones, speed the clock, trash talk between firefights, and find yourself saying one more until it's 2 a.m. American Conquest builds battles big enough to scare you, thousands of units, morale and formations that matter, and the awful beauty of a line collapsing. Heroes of Annihilated Empires welds RPG power spikes onto RTS bones. Let a hero scale out of control, and you're planning an assassination, not a skirmish. Ancient Wars. Sparta started rough, but grows into physics-driven chaos and smart customization if you stick past hour 1. None of these are perfect. All of them have soul. And a few more names refuse to stay buried, no matter how many years pass. 2 you should revisit right now. Battle Realms, Nexus again, for emphasis. Battle Realms doesn't imitate anyone. Peasants are pegs you slot into your army tree. Economy and unit production are the same heartbeat. The yin-yang tech identity feels like a philosophy, not a spreadsheet, and the fights are still crisp. And yes, Nexus earns a second mention because most RTS taught us to love quantity. Nexus teaches us to love mass, tonnage, arcs, fire, and solutions. The sweet inevitability of a planned strike if you left either behind, they'll surprise you today. The point. Really, strategy's best ideas don't always win popularity contests. Some games were early, some unlucky, some asked for focus during years when everyone wanted noise. But the reason to go back isn't nostalgia, it's craft. These titles show angles the mainstream sometimes forgets. The power of terrain, the thrill of specialization, the tension of finite lives, the joy of making an army that exists nowhere else. If one of these jogged a memory, drop your lost favorite in the comments and tell us what made it stick. A mission, a mechanic, a moment you still think about. I'll pin a community shortlist and pull from it in future episodes. If you enjoyed this rediscovery tour, hit like so more strategy fans find it, subscribe for more deep dives, and I'll see you in the next one. Quick recap for browsers who skipped here. Tactics first brilliance, ground control, world and conflict sacrifice, hybrids that secretly define subgenres, battle zone, impossible creatures, Nexus, systems that demand respect, Original War, Kohan 2, Dark Reign. Big ideas overshadowed by timing, Rise of Nations, Empire Earth, Grey Goo. Worlds you probably missed, Submarine Titans, Warrior Kings, Armies of Exigo. Cult cuts with staying power, Zaid, American Conquest, Heroes of Annihilated Empires, Ancient Wars, Sparta. Revisit Battle Realms and Nexus. They're not done teaching. Thanks for hanging out. If this tour added a few games to your backlog, tap like, subscribe for more high signal strategy content, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next Forgotten Gems Roundup. Now your turn. What did we miss? Post your pick below and tell us why it deserves the spotlight. Let's build the definitive community list together.